The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. We are discussing the mock draft 2.0 and some possible rule changes. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com and use the promo code STOVE15. That's STOVE15 to get 15% off your purchase. Well, I know most people are watching basketball this time of night, but we know that in the morning people will need something to listen to. And so we're doing another episode of the Sports Stove Football Show. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Like you said, definitely a lot going on in the sports world here tonight. So anyhow there, but yeah, football, the draft is coming up. I think 34 days or a little over 30 days. I know in Green Bay it's really starting to ramp up. They're building stuff for the draft and more information is coming out every day. And so a lot of excitement up there in the city and the state, actually, I guess where you're at now. So a lot going on there. And like I said, the draft, I think it's going to be a real interesting one, definitely for, the Packers and probably all the teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We got with the basketball tournament going on right now, high school basketball tournaments going on too, NHL's in full bore, NBA's in full bore. Baseball season is just literally around the corner, even though we've already had some baseball games. So, I mean, a lot happening, and the football never seems to go away, though. It's always here. There's always something happening. Today, they had the information drop about the proposed rule changes, all things that we've heard of before for the most part. The tush push is under investigation again, and some wording or language they're trying to get added into the rule book on that to eliminate the tush push. Basically, they can't push a player who has the ball. It's kind of similar to some defensive rules, and maybe trying to even it out a little bit as far as the advantages go there. The one I like, though, is the playoff seeding where they're saying, hey, we need to get to the point where if a wild card team has a better record than a division winner, the wild card team should get to host the game. And I 100% agree with that, Dad, because I don't understand why you can have a team. I think of Minnesota this year had such a great regular season, and they had to go travel and play a team that could barely get over 500 this year. That just doesn't seem right. I like the idea of saying, hey, if you had a good season, your record's better. Doesn't matter. You won the division, you make the playoffs, but you don't necessarily get to host a game.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense, and it's good there. I think it kind of evens things out, if there's a weaker division from there, because right now, a weaker division, somebody's going to win and get the host and whatever, where in this case, they'd have to have, the better record. So that seems like that's a very fair way to do it.
Yeah, and then also Philadelphia has proposed that the regular season overtime rules be the same as the playoff overtime rules, which guarantees both teams a chance to get the ball. I know sometimes during the regular season we're just trying to get games over with, but overtime at a professional level, you want both teams to have the opportunity to score. And in hockey, it's sudden death, but both teams traditionally get a chance. I mean, I guess if you win the opening face-off and score, then the other team doesn't. But baseball, both teams get a chance. So it just makes sense to me at a professional level, especially, that both teams get a shot with it too. So I like that one too, Dad.
Yeah, I do too. I don't, I've never liked it. Just it can happen, quick, and it has to do with the flip of the coin. So I think both teams having a chance is definitely a way to do it.
Okay, well, we're heading into draft season. Like you said, we're just a little over a month away now from the NFL draft. And earlier this week on bellyupsports.com, I dropped my Sports Stove NFL Mock Draft 2.0. And I'll have at least two more before the actual draft takes place. I did throw some trades in this one, not as many as I originally planned on, honestly. And Dad, we talked a little bit last week about Shedeur Sanders and trying to figure out where things are going to land for him. And I dropped this article, the mock draft. I'm trying to remember March the 16th, and then more things have happened since then that kind of have changed my mind a little bit on this. Cleveland announces they're going to build an indoor stadium. They don't call it a dome. It looks like it has a clear roof to it and everything, and it looks phenomenal, of course, as any new stadium would. With that, Dad, it gives me a little bit more leniency to go, well, maybe they will draft Shedeur Sanders because I do not have them drafting him in this mock draft because I just didn't feel like Shedeur Sanders fit Cleveland. It's cold, windy, all that kind of stuff, and Shedeur's arm just isn't that. It doesn't fit that. But if they're going to build a dome, then, I mean, I guess it opens the opportunity. They signed Kenny Pickett, whose playing style matches more with Shedeur Sanders than with Cam Ward. Like I said last week, I think they've come to the fact they're not going to get Cam Ward, so they're deciding: do they want Shedeur Sanders? Do they want to wait, trade back, or trade back into the first round and get Jackson Dart, or wait till Tyler Shuck is around in the second round? Like, what they want to do, I don't know. But Dad, in this mock draft that went out on the 16th, I've got Tennessee sticking at 1 and taking Cam Ward. And I said it in the article. I said it, I think, last week on the show too. The question isn't, will Cam Ward go number 1? The question is, will Tennessee take him, or will someone trade up to get him? So Cam Ward, number 1. I've got Tennessee sticking and picking there. I took Abdul Carter with Cleveland at pick number 2. Again, if I could redo this right now, I'd probably put Shedeur Sanders there. But Abdul Carter gives them solid bookends with Myles Garrett sticking around there. So we're going to go through the first 10 picks and we'll talk about them. I got the Giants taking Shedeur Sanders at 3. New England taking Travis Hunter at 4. I think New England could trade out of 4, but for now I had them stick there. Jacksonville getting fortunate. They have a great need at the defensive line. They get Mason Graham from Michigan. Las Vegas, I have them taking linebacker Jalen Walker from Georgia. Previously, I had Ashton Genty going here, and I think he still could. The Jets, I have them going with a right tackle, Armand Membo from Boston College. And then Carolina taking Ashton Genty, a dynamic playmaker for them. New Orleans taking Mykel Williams from Georgia, and Chicago landing what I think is the number 1 tackle in the draft, Will Campbell, who after his short arms measurement has been dropping, it seems like. It just seems really silly to me that you can put that much tape on and show how good of a player you are. And then they say, well, your arms are 1.5 inches too short, so therefore you cannot go in the top 5. But I've got him going 10 to Chicago in this draft. Dad, when you look at these top 10 picks, is there anything that stands out to you in these 10?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. You never know kind of where the offensive line is going to go. So, will there be 2 of them go in the top 10? I don't know. That has happened in the last few years. And, that makes sense. I think the defensive lineman from Michigan is going to go pretty early. We'll see about Shedeur Sanders, and if he does go earlier to Cleveland, again, I'm not sure that does make a lot of sense, but we will we will see from there. Travis Hunter will be he's going to be a real game changer for whoever gets him. So if he does, if he drops out of the second pick, whoever is able to get him, I think that could really make a big difference for them. The running back, Genty's really good, and he could probably help any team that gets him from there. So, it'd be interesting to see. And like I said, right now you don't have any trades in those first 10 picks, and I would guess there could be 1 or 2 for sure in there. So.
Yeah, it's hard. What I really struggle with is after trying to figure out Shedeur Sanders is picks 6, 7, and 8. Vegas, the Jets, and the Panthers. to me, those are hard ones to kind of figure out right now because there's so many different directions they could go. I mean, Vegas at 6, they could go Genty, they could go O-line, they could go edge rusher. They may not choose Jalen Walker. They could go somewhere else with it. They have a lot of needs. And if somehow Shedeur Sanders drops, they could take him. You just don't know really what Vegas is going to do. Ultimately, they're at 6. The Jets are the same way. I mean, the Jets could go so many different options. An article dropped today saying that they were linked to Jackson Dart, which I don't think it would be at pick 7. That they could trade down or they could trade back into the first round. Justin Fields is there. He's on a 2-year deal. Would they draft a quarterback this year high to prepare, or would they give Justin Fields an actual shot? And then Carolina, they got so many needs. I think Jalen Carter would be a perfect fit in Carolina there in that linebacker role. But again, I put Ashton Genty here because he's still on the board in my mock, and he's a dynamic playmaker. Carolina needs playmakers to help that offense out as well. So, and then Chicago, Dad, they've done a lot of work on the offensive line, but it's all been on the interior. They got a new center, 2 new guards. They drafted a tackle last year, and so drafting a tackle again this year would ideally set them up for a couple of years. And again, Will Campbell, who was the number 1 guy for so long, and the only reason he's dropping that we can see at least is his arm measurements. He is 1.5 inches shorter than what they want him to be. So maybe Josh Simmons from Ohio State jumps up here and he goes there. Maybe it's Kelvin Banks from Texas, although his name has been going further and further and further down the board throughout this process as well. I'm not on the Armand Membu train necessarily. He is a right tackle. The Jets have a bigger need at right tackle than these other teams do. So I'd be a little surprised if Membu's the first tackle off the board, being that he is a right tackle, but you never know. Like I said, it was a fit. He's an athlete for sure. So those are picks 1 through 10. Let's go through the next 10 picks 11 through 20. And we do have a trade in this section. Starting off with San Francisco. Again, this team, what a weird offseason for San Francisco after a very, very poor season. They've got a lot of needs. I've got them going with guard Tyler Booker from Alabama. Dallas, I've got them going wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas. He had the crazy numbers on the combine. And, Jerry Jones is all about, these freak athletes and things like that. They lost a lot in their receiver room over the last 2 years, so he could come in there. Miami, I got tight end Tyler Warren. A lot of people think he's going to be a top 10 pick. The Jets are a team I hear a lot about him. I just can't see it. So I had him dropping to 13. I got the Colts taking James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. Atlanta taking cornerback Will Johnson, which would be a steal at 15 in my opinion. I've got Arizona going out and getting Marvin Harrison's old teammate, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. I'm super high on Egbuka. I think he is the number 2 receiver. I've got him behind Tatiro McMillan, and I've got Golden as my 3rd on my board, but I think Dallas likes Golden better. Anyways, I got Arizona taking Egbuka at 16. Cincinnati getting a really good cornerback in Jahdae Barron from Texas. As Seattle then getting their receiver as they've let go 2 guys. So Tatiro McMillan from Arizona getting there to Seattle at 18. Then I got the Rams trading up to get Kelvin Banks from Texas, the offensive tackle. And then Denver landing a tight end, Colston Loveland from Michigan here. Dad, I really like these players in this 9 picks. There's just a lot of guys here that are really, really good. Will Johnson, again, he was a top 5, top 6 guy had he not gotten hurt this last year. And now he's coming into the draft, coming off a year where he didn't play much. And if he falls to 15, like I said, Atlanta gets a steal there. So any thoughts on those 9 picks, 10 picks?
Yeah, again, there's definitely some real good cornerbacks in this draft. And but like I said, somebody's going to drop, whether it's going to be, edge rushers, whether it's going to be cornerbacks, these 2 tight ends, will they go this quick? Tight end is a big thing right now, and people can definitely use them. But It just seems like, and especially in these top 20 you got here, and I know there's going to be some good ones in the next group. It'd be interesting to see, if they're all in here or if people drop. Obviously, the order could get shuffled around. Some of these guys could go up, into the top 10. And again, with talent like this, you could see some more trades, people, going up to get someone. So, there's a lot of, it seems like there's several positions, cornerback, edge rusher, offensive line, definitely where there's a lot of talent. So what order they're going to go in, that can change quite a few things.
Yeah, and I've always done fairly well at figuring out the area where players will fall, but figuring out the trades is so hard. Who's going to come up? Who's going to make the move? Those kinds of things. That's really the hard thing to predict in most cases. At pick number 19, I've got the Rams coming up with Tampa, as the Rams were down around 26, I think, or 20. Yeah, I think 26. And I've just got them coming up to get Kelvin Banks. They see this offensive lineman sitting there and falling, and he's a solid O lineman. And there's really only Josh Simmons is the other guy that's still available at this point in my mock, and whichever one they like better. I think I can see them moving up several picks to get an offensive line help there. 2 tight ends in this round as well in this section. Again, Miami, they've got the receivers. Why not have an electric tight end added to that group? And then Denver, it seems like everybody's mocking a tight end to Denver. Now, could they wait till the second round to get one? Sure, they definitely could. So we'll interested to see, Colson Loveland's a guy that Jim Harbaugh knows well. So maybe the Chargers, they could use a tight end. So maybe the Chargers could go up and get him as well. We'll see how all that plays out. All right, picks 21 through 32 to round out the first round. We got a couple trades in this section as well. Pittsburgh at 21, I've got them going Mike Green from Marshall. And these edge rushers, you just mentioned it, Dad, there's a lot of variety. It's guys got to, teams fall in love with certain guys, and they may have these ranked differently, but that's how I've got it. Mike Green going 21. The Chargers at 22, taking Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, another edge rusher. Got the Packers going Derek Harmon with Oregon, a considered cornerback here as well. But I don't know, Dad. For whatever reason, I feel like D-line is where the Packers are going in round 1 this year. Last time I had a different D lineman there, Walter Nolan. This time I got Derek Harmon going there. I got Minnesota going cornerback Maxwell Harrison, who had a incredible 40 time, and he's been rising up draft boards as well. He's a Kentucky product. At 25, I've got Vegas trading back up into the first round here to go safety Nick Emenwari. And I am a big fan of this guy. He is massive. He is an athlete. And you look at Pete Carroll and you say, well, when did they have their success in Seattle? They had some big safeties back there. And although you could go Malachi Starks as the number 1 safety for many, I just love Nick Emenwari, and I feel like he fits that mold of what Vegas could be trying to do with their defense. So I've got Vegas moving back into the first round, trading with Houston to come up and get Nick Emenwari. Tampa, and then picking at 26 as they traded down with the Rams. And I've got them going offensive lineman Josh Simmons. And again, when you look at this mock, the Rams traded up several spots to get an O lineman, and Tampa ends up with an O lineman in the spot the Rams traded out of. We'll see. Baltimore, I got them going defensive tackle Tyleek Williams from Ohio State. I got Detroit taking Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss. He has some character questions, and it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around in the first round or goes second. I've got Cleveland trading up at 29 here. They passed on quarterback at number 2 to go Abdul Carter. So I've got them trading up with Washington to get quarterback Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Buffalo taking defensive lineman Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Kansas City taking running back Omari and Hampton from North Carolina. And Philadelphia rounding out the first round with a guard, Jonah Savainia from Arizona here at the end of the first. Dad, you look at these final picks of the first round. What are your thoughts on this mock area?
Well, like you said, you've got a lot of trades here, and I think there will be trades. There are obviously people need defensive line, and it seems to be strong from there. It is kind of has dropped down into this last group here. So that can be interesting. I do think the Packers would make sense to take defensive line. I think, edge rusher or cornerback, either one could be a possibility. I know they're starting to bring in people for, interviews, and they brought in the edge rusher from Texas A&M this week, and they read where, they said he's a real freak athlete, so, but they're going to need help on the defense. But, same way with these other teams that you have, pick there. I think the Kansas City pick with a running back makes a lot of sense for them. I think Cleveland getting a quarterback later, either this spot in the first round or second round, makes a little more sense than Shedeur Sanders earlier. But again, nobody really knows what's going to happen on that one at this point. But like I said, strong draft for the defense for sure. And apparently offensive line. You got a lot of offensive linemen going in the first round. And, they always say you never get too many good offensive linemen. So if there's guys that can really make a difference. Now, if they're about equal, maybe you could see two of these guys dropping down in even the middle of the second round. Just depends where that it goes. So,
yeah, I mean, once you get past pick 16, 17, somewhere in that range, you really come down to, you'll find it's a little easier to predict position more so than individual. And you can say, well, this team is probably going to go O-line, but which O-lineman do they like? Or this person's going to go edge, which edge do they like? This person go corner, but which corner do they like? That's the hard part to figure out, because you may have them ranked, or you might read other professionals who have them ranked a certain way, and then your team passes on those guys that were ranked up there as Mel Kiper's next best, and they take the fourth best on Mel Kiper's list. You're going, what are they doing? Well, you got to understand, they've watched the tape, they've studied the film, they've talked to the players, they know what they want, they know what they believe in. And so when you're mocking these things, like I said, it's easier to mock the position than it is the player, because sometimes you say, well, edge makes so much sense at this spot, and they just like someone different. Mike Green, some character questions. And so maybe he drops. He's had a really good offseason in between his last football game, all the workouts, the Senior Bowl, all this stuff. Mike Green has stood out, but he's got character issues. So will that come back to bite him? Will that drop? Will people say, you know what, we're just not comfortable taking him in the first round? We will see. It'll be interesting for sure. All right, switching gears briefly to the Minnesota Vikings. Come out this week. They say J.J. McCarthy's our guy. Not going after Aaron Rodgers. They'll still have to get another quarterback. They don't have one on the roster, so they'll sign somebody. But Dad, I'm just telling you, put it on the record. J.J. McCarthy's not him. He's not the guy. And I cannot believe Minnesota has fumbled this offseason so badly after a 13-win season. You say, wow, we got Justin Jefferson. Good for you. At the end of the day, Matt Stafford had Calvin Johnson. What did they ever do? So I'm just saying, J.J. McCarthy he's not the answer in Minnesota. And I think Minnesota fans are in for a rude awakening this season if truly J.J. McCarthy is the number one quarterback and week one of the NFL season. Dad, are you surprised by this? Is this what you expected? And what are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy in his first season as the starting quarterback for Minnesota?
Well, I read that McCarthy was having a really good training camp last year, before he got hurt. But like you said, everybody will say, hey, we're happy with him. Coming out of college, it just doesn't seem to me like, I agree with you. I don't think he's ready to be the starting quarterback. Does he have the tools in a couple years? Could he be an NFL starting quarterback? Maybe he could be. I don't know. again, a little easy for me to be prejudiced because I'm not a Michigan fan. But when you look at the ability, you'll have to see. I'm not surprised that they're staying away from Aaron Rodgers. We talked about that last week. That just doesn't fit with O'Connell. I just don't see that. Maybe they have something else in mind. They definitely need to have somebody because they don't know his health yet, McCarthy's health. So they're going to have some kind of plan to go along with him for sure. Now, what it's going to be, I guess time will tell. But like I said, I'm not really surprised about the Rodgers thing. But we will see. It seems like putting all the eggs in the basket of McCarthy. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe they will bring somebody in, that can play for a little bit, until they see exactly what they have. The word is that, once they start the off-season workouts and stuff and training camp, they'll know a little more of where they're at. But and there was talk that Aaron Rodgers, could still be somebody they would go to later, but they at this point they want to, go give McCarthy every chance. So we'll see.
You say you read that McCarthy did well in camp last year. Listen, I don't claim to be well connected in the NFL camps, but I spoke with people who were at that camp and in that camp, and it was the opposite. It was JJ McCarthy was not it. And I'm not talking about speaking with fans who were sitting there watching. I'm talking about people who were participating in the camp said, no, it just wasn't there. And so again, I don't have connections in the league. I'm not going to every team knowing everything, but this is one that there were people there that said he wasn't doing well. And then he gets hurt, misses all the season, whatever. I cannot believe that the Vikings fan base, it's one thing for the organization to say, we've watched all the film, we drafted this guy knowing what he could be. We believe now is the time to put him on the field, and that's the best thing for our team. That's one thing. I can disagree with it, but they get paid to make those decisions, and that's fine. But for the fan base to so avidly say, we don't want Sam Darnold, we don't want him here, don't bring him back. What a disappointment. He ruined us. I'm sitting there going, how quickly do you forget how good of a season you guys just had? And you're throwing it away, literally, to go with someone you have no idea what he's going to be. So Minnesota fan bases, I don't know, Dad, you got friends up there where you live that are Minnesota fans. Check with them. Give me their thoughts on JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold. I'd be curious to know, because I consider those people relatively sane that up there. And so I'll let you check with them, get back with us on that. We'll see where all that shakes down as well. Dad, anything else football related? We're gonna wrap up a little early here tonight with it being the first night of March Madness. But Dad, any other football thoughts?
No, we got the draft, coming up here. It's gonna be here quicker than you think, and I'm sure a lot of things will continue to happen. And you're going to have a lot of rankings, are going to change, with people. I don't think we'll get a lot of information on teams yet, as far as trades or what they're going to do, but we'll see.
I'm glad you said that. This is the latest that we've not had a first round pick traded yet. Leading up to the draft, latest in I don't remember how many years, but it's been a long time. I saw that. I don't think I saved it. I saw that somewhere, maybe from Shedeur. I don't remember. Saw it from somebody. And anyway, so we've not had any trades yet. And you got to believe the Giants, the coach and the general manager are on the hot seat. You've got to believe that they can't just sit there at 3. They're going to try everything they can to get up to 1. If they can't get there, they might even try to get up to 2 just to make sure they get a quarterback. Unless they've fallen in love with one of these guys that are going to go later. That'll be interesting to see. But we should have a first-round trade, a pick traded here, you would think soon, if there's going to be one up top. So we'll see how that one shakes down, of course, as well. Off air, we talked about this, but Jeff Fisher gets hired at Tennessee State. He replaces Eddie George as the head coach at Tennessee State. as Eddie George went up to Bowling Green in Ohio. So congrats to Jeff Fisher making it back in. Hopefully they play a 16-game schedule, Dad, so he can go 8-8 again in his career, as that's what Jeff Fisher is well known for. So good luck, though, to Jeff Fisher at Tennessee State and everyone there. All right, that's it for tonight. We'll be back next week talking more NFL, and if there is college football news, we'll talk that as well. But follow us on social media at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram. And again, check out our sponsors, Righteous Felon Jerky at righteousfelon.com. If you use the promo code STOVE15, that's STOVE15, you get 15% off your purchase each and every time. So thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. If you missed any of the episode, you can go back and watch it on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, or find the Sports Stove Football Show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.